Great Britain had broken the Peace of Amiens by declaring war on France in May 1803. In December 1804, an Anglo-Swedish agreement became the first step towards the creation of the Third Coalition. By April 1805, Britain had also signed an alliance with Russia. Austria had been defeated by France twice in recent memory and wanted revenge. So it joined the coalition a few months later. Before the formation of the Third Coalition, Napoleon had assembled an invasion force, the Armée d'Angleterre, around 6 camps at Boulogne in northern France. He intended to use this invasion force to strike at England. They never invaded, but Napoleon's troops received careful and invaluable training for future military operations. The men at Boulogne formed the corps for what Napoleon later called La Grande Armée. At the start, this French army had about 200,000 men organized into 7 corps, which were large field units that contained 36 to 40 cannons each and were capable of independent action until other corps could come to the rescue. A single corps properly situated in a strong defensive position could survive at least a day without support, giving the Grande Armée countless strategic and tactical options on every campaign. On top of these forces, Napoleon created a cavalry reserve of 22,000 organized into 2 cuirassier divisions, 4 mounted dragoon divisions, 1 division of dismounted dragoons, and 1 of light cavalry, all supported by 24 artillery pieces. By 1805, the Grande Armée had grown to a force of 350,000 men, who were well equipped, well trained, and led by competent officers. Napoleon knew that the French fleet could not defeat the Royal Navy in a head-to-head battle. So he planned to lure it away from the English Channel through diversionary tactics. The main strategic idea involved the French Navy escaping from the British blockades of Toulon and Brest and threatening to attack the British West Indies. In the face of this attack, it was hoped the British would weaken their defense of the western approaches by sending ships to the Caribbean, allowing a combined Franco-Spanish fleet to take control of the English Channel long enough for French armies to cross and invade. However, the plan unraveled after the British victory at the Battle of Cape Finisterre in July 1805. French Admiral Villeneuve then retreated to Cadiz instead of linking up with French naval forces at Brest for an attack on the English Channel. By August 1805, Napoleon had realized that the strategic situation had changed fundamentally. Facing a potential invasion from his continental enemies, he decided to strike first and turned his army's sights from the English Channel to the Rhine. His basic objective was to destroy the isolated Austrian armies in southern Germany before their Russian allies could arrive. On the 25th of September, after great secrecy and feverish marching, 200,000 French troops began to cross the Rhine on a front of 260 km. 160 mil. Austrian commander Karl Mack had gathered the greater part of the Austrian army at the fortress of Ulm in Swabia. Napoleon swung his forces to the southeast and the Grande Armée performed an elaborate wheeling movement that outflanked the Austrian positions. The Ulm maneuver completely surprised General Mack, who belatedly understood that his army had been cut off. After some minor engagements that culminated in the Battle of Ulm, Mack finally surrendered after realizing that there was no way to break out of the French encirclement. For just 2,000 French casualties, Napoleon had managed to capture a total of 60,000 Austrian soldiers through his army's rapid marching. Napoleon wrote after the conflict, "Udharan Chene. I have accomplished my object. I have destroyed the Austrian army by simply marching. Udharan Chene." The Ulm campaign is generally regarded as a strategic masterpiece and was influential in the development of the Schlieffen Plan in the late 19th century. For the French, This spectacular victory on land was soured by the decisive victory that the Royal Navy attained at the Battle of Trafalgar on the 21st of October. After Trafalgar, the Royal Navy was never again seriously challenged by a French fleet in a large-scale engagement. For the duration of the Napoleonic Wars, following the Ulm campaign, French forces managed to capture Vienna in November. The fall of Vienna provided the French a huge bounty as they captured 100,000 muskets, 500 cannons, and the intact bridges across the Danube. At this critical juncture, both Tsar Alexander I and Holy Roman Emperor Francis II decided to engage Napoleon in battle. Despite reservations from some of their subordinates, Napoleon sent his army north in pursuit of the Allies but then ordered his forces to retreat so that he could feign a grave weakness. Desperate to lure the Allies into battle, Napoleon gave every indication in the days preceding the engagement that the French army was in a pitiful state, even abandoning the dominant Prussian heights, a sloping hill near the village of Austerlitz. At the Battle of Austerlitz, in Moravia on the 2nd of December, he deployed the French army below the Prussian heights and deliberately weakened his right flank, enticing the Allies to launch a major assault there in the hopes of rolling up the whole French line. A forced march from Vienna by Marshal Davout and his 3 corps plugged the gap left by Napoleon just in time. Meanwhile, the heavy Allied deployment against the French right flank weakened their center on the Prussian heights, which was viciously attacked by the IV Corps of Marshal Soult. With the Allied center demolished, the French swept through both enemy flanks and sent the Allies fleeing chaotically, capturing thousands of prisoners in the process. The battle is often seen as a tactical masterpiece because of the near-perfect execution of a calibrated but dangerous plan, of the same stature as Cannae, the celebrated triumph by Hannibal some 2,000 years before. The Allied disaster at Austerlitz significantly shook the faith of Emperor Francis in the British-led war effort. France and Austria agreed to an armistice immediately and the Treaty of Pressburg followed shortly after. On the 26th of December, Pressburg took Austria out of both the war and the coalition while reinforcing the earlier treaties of Campo Formio and of Luneville between the two powers. The treaty confirmed the Austrian loss of lands to France in Italy and Bavaria, and lands in Germany to Napoleon's German allies. It imposed an indemnity of 40 million francs on the defeated Habsburgs and allowed the fleeing Russian troops free passage through hostile territories and back to their home soil. Napoleon went on to say, "The Battle of Austerlitz is the finest of all I have fought." Frank McLean suggests that Napoleon was so successful at Austerlitz that he lost touch with reality, and what used to be French foreign policy became a personal Napoleonic one. Vincent Cronin disagrees, stating that Napoleon was not overly ambitious for himself. He embodied the ambitions of 30 million Frenchmen.